my business. I want to hold hands, Valentine's Day, my business. Who are you to tell me what to do? That will come. And the Muslims say when that day comes, that's a sign that the end of the world is coming. Maybe.
Okay, we have time for just 2 more questions.
I'm Jowly from City Sussex College. I'd like to ask about the sort of path West Malaysia, or formerly Malaysia, to be a more racist state. I'm from Sabah. So we have traditionally been rather like happy with each other, but during the past 10 to 20 years we've been a bit more and more extremist and more racist. So is it possible that, okay, I see that we might be going the same path. So I want to know what happened over there so it doesn't happen in Sabah.
You spoke of the third force and like the electorate having to choose making the voice heard to choose who comes into power. But I think there's this uncertainty of even sometimes when we vote, whether the votes actually will count because of all the corruption and the buying of votes here and there. And that's partly because of the weakness of the judiciary. And we all know in the past Malaysian judiciary was highly esteemed and the rule of law was seen to be this tenet of democracy. So what part do you think this concept of rule of law have to play in ensuring that Malaysia becomes the country that it should be and it could be?
Mr. Petra, I can't agree completely with you about what you said about what Singapore went through being a Singapore experiment. Samuel, I'm from Girton College. I think Lee Kuan Yew did what he did because he believed this was what was best for the nation. So over 30 years, we have Singapore undergoing unprecedented economic growth, and Singapore's now one of the safest, one of the cleanest, and one of the countries with this corruption in the world. So I can say that I'm proud to be a Singaporean. I have many good Malaysian Chinese friends. Okay, so when they tell me about the problems of the country, I ask them, why don't you enter Malaysian politics? You have the right brain, you have the right talents, Why don't you just run for, just enter a party, make good policy and change Malaysia? But they tell me about corruption, they tell me about bribery, they tell me about all this playing out of race and basically like in Malaysia, if you are in for politics, you're always in for the money. And the thing is, it's not just that. I feel this sense of identity, like for me as a Singaporean after coming to Cambridge, this sense of identity for Malaysian Chinese is not very strong. It's like what you said. It's like they're kind of like foreigners in the country. I do genuinely feel it because like a lot of my Singaporean friends, to them Singapore is home. They say Singapore, yeah, we go home. But for many Malaysians, it's like, okay, I'm here to study, but if I could, I would not go back to Malaysia. So that's something that I was quite thinking about, and what I said today really solidified it. So practically, if someone like a Malaysian Chinese here and tells you today, okay, I'm going to enter Malaysian politics in 10 years' time, would you say that that's foolish, or would you say that that's normal? And how you advise him to do it? And do you think it's realistically possible? Do you think that he could really change something in 10 years' time?
Okay, so I believe your question was, what advice you have to Malaysian Chinese or Chinese Malaysians being online in the politics?
How did West Malaysia become so racist? Well, you see, politicians are becoming now bankrupt of issues, bankrupt of ideas. People have become to realize that what you said, there's so much corruption in the country. And freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of expression. And we talk about all these Western values, civil rights and democracy. But when we say freedom of choice, freedom of expression, how far do we go? Freedom of choice, freedom of expression. If one of you boys, you want to marry a Malay girl, is that possible? Freedom of choice? No. There's a lot of restrictions. You first have to convert to Islam. And this and that. And what happens if you convert to Islam because you have to marry this Malay girl, and later you divorce? Can you leave Islam to become a Buddhist or a Christian or whatever your original? No, cannot. Once you become a Muslim, you're a Muslim for life. So these are all the freedoms that we talk about which do not exist. And that's maybe going extreme, the freedom of conversion, the freedom of intermarriage, interracial, interreligious marriage and stuff, you know, it's maybe going extreme, but we go to something milder. Something milder. Can you have the freedom to not believe in God? What if you don't believe in God? Can you say, I'm an atheist? You cannot. You must believe in God. Because according to the Constitution, if you are born from a Malay family, you become automatically Malay, automatically Muslim. So, yeah, but I didn't choose to be born a Malay. It's not that God says, hey, guy, you know, what religion you like to be born into, what religion? No. Suddenly I was born. And as I grew up, 6 years old, 5 years old, I was sent for Quran class and I was taught how to pray. And then after I got a bit older, I said, why am I doing all this? This is all nonsense. I don't believe in all this. I want to get out. No, you cannot. You cannot. You already born into it. You stay until you die. Or else, you die now. So these are things which the restrictions that's being imposed on Malaysians. Now all these things, all these things, the corruption, the racism and what have you, the lack of freedoms, all these are actually not the problem. But you see, we always identify this as a problem and we say, how can we solve this problem? How can we cure this disease? But that's not the problem. That's not the real disease. Those are symptoms that we have a disease. When you go to the doctor and you're shivering, you're sweating, and the doctor says, I'm going to give you something to stop your shivering and to stop your sweating. But the shivering and the sweating is not what ails me. I'm suffering from some virus or some sickness. And these are the signs that I'm suffering from something. So if you are curing the symptoms and not the cause of the disease, I'm never going to be cured. You must find out what's wrong with me. These things that you see are just the evidence that there is something wrong with me. And unless you cure that, you see, once you cure that, all this will automatically go away. So we Malaysians, we always focus on, why we must change the government. Why must we change the government? Because this government is corrupted. Why is this government corrupted? Why is this government corrupted? You think what, changing the government is going to eliminate corruption? At the end of the day, corruption is caused by greedy people. And as long as we have a lot of greedy people who go into politics because that is a shortcut to making money, power translates to rich. The politicians say, I'm there to serve you, to serve the rakyat. Kepala otak kau. No politician is in the business of serving the rakyat. It's to serve himself. And he's in politics because he wants power, and power gives him wealth. And that's why corruption is high. And here are we as voters, we are arguing about which of these two parties should be the next government. Whereas in both parties, at all levels, corruption exists. You say, Pakatan also corrupted. so bad. Warisan, Pakatan is not federal government. Pakatan is only state government. State government got no money. The money is in federal. Of course, Barisan more corrupted because the bank account is bigger. Here, the bank account is smaller. You mean the Pakatan did not take over from 1957 and today Pakatan is already 56 years in power? You think the corruption will not be the same? It will be the same. Maybe worse. So we are not looking at the disease and trying to cure the disease. We are looking at the symptoms of a disease that exists and we're trying to cure the symptoms. Corruption is a sign that we Malaysians tolerate it. If we don't tolerate, it will never happen. How many businessmen will tell you Malay, Chinese, Indian, doesn't matter. No doubt there's more Chinese than non-Chinese businessmen in Malaysia. That's because of the economic structure. But any businessman in Malaysia will tell you, you want to solve your problem, pay, all solved. How many of you who know of people who have committed a traffic offence, instead of in court, count them. 50 ringgit, why pay 300? So we are all corrupted. The entire Malaysians corrupted. We are a nation of corrupted people. Therefore we are corrupted. The day we say no to corruption, the day when the police stops us and say, check, lampu merah, issue saman. He says saman 300. If you kira can 50 ringgit, no, issue saman. Or pay 300. I'm not going to pay you 50 ringgit. I tell you, every single policeman, his pocket kosong. He said, Hari Raya. Oh, kau tema. Money. Yeah? Corruption will end. We perpetuate it. I tell you, Malaysians will do anything to get away with it. And I tell you, Malaysians, the corrupt culture is there. And I speak to businessmen. I used to be in business since the 1970s. Yeah? And I tell them, I say, you guys, you control the money, you control the economy. Without money, Barisan National is dead. You know Barisan National is 1.5 billion? Every election, 1.5 billion. The opposition also did money. Not 1.5 but still 200-300 million or 250 million at least. Barisan is bigger. Because the amount is also bigger. Now, where do you think Barisan gets this 1.5 billion from? And where do you think the opposition gets this 200 or 300 million from? From us. From us. We are giving them the money. In particular, the businessmen. We are feeding Barisan. Okay? We are allowing them to continue to rule with a 1.5 billion donations, supposedly donations that we give. And they fight election and we complain, like Sabah, they buy votes, they pay, they pay how much? Hundreds of millions, Sabah, 200 million they spend just to buy votes. Where do you think they got the 200 million from? It's not from you people. You are giving them the money, they buy the votes, so they stay in power. So we, because of the corrupt attitude that we have, the corrupt culture that we have, we are perpetuating a corrupt government. We are allowing them to rule. You take away their money, they're dead. Okay, who owns McDonald's? Barisan crony. How many million does he make? Hundreds of millions. How many million does he give to UMNO? Hundreds of millions. How many of you have never eaten McDonald's in Malaysia? You never eat McDonald's? So, we eat McDonald's, we eat Kentucky, we buy sports toto, we do this, we do that, we buy cars. Everything that we touch in Malaysia, where we spend money, belongs to a It's crony. We make them rich. They take this money, they fund this election, and they continue to rule over us. We cannot get rid of them because they're so rich. It's because we make them rich. Have you heard of civil disobedience? What if you refuse to patronize any establishment, any business that you know is owned by a crony? Boycott, bankrupt them, make them poor. By the time it becomes poor, things will start to change. So, don't keep always blaming this person, blaming that person, blaming government, blaming UMNO, blaming this. I tell you, we are always blaming the other party, the other person for what we are guilty of doing. And we don't realize it. Politics is all about money. Elections is all about money. Where did this money come from? We don't care. And we complain about how, so much corruption, even Singapore, Malaysia is so corrupted, and everything. Singapore has a different kind of corruption. May not be Malaysian style of corruption. It's there. It is not that kind of blatant corruption. This is probably not the right time because we're running out of time anyway. But I can tell you a thing or two about how Singapore maneuvered, Lee Kuan Yew especially maneuvered very, very clever. Okay, very, very clever. So I tell you, Singapore is not as squeaky clean. It's just that Singapore is smarter. Malaysians, Malaysians when they eat, they can see the chili in the Singapore you cannot see.